Hello, everyone. And Coinbase not being able to show proof of reserves might have landed them in hot water with Blackrock. Maybe it's because of public pressure, but they're demanding action from Coinbase, and their demands might make other ETF people that are using Coinbase as a custodian demand the same from Coinbase, which could not be good for Coinbase. So BlackRock Bitcoin ETF demands 12-hour Bitcoin withdrawals from Coinbase, so fast, basically almost just in time withdrawals from CB. So Brian Armstrong might have thought he alleviated everything, but he actually didn't. BlackRock and ETFs have saved Bitcoin's price from the abyss repeatedly, according to Bloomberg's senior ETF analyst. The world's largest asset manager has filed for an amendment for its Bitcoin exchange-traded fund following widespread investor concerns over Coinbase's on-chain settlement practices. BlackRock has filed an amendment to require Bitcoin withdrawals within 12 hours from the ETF's custodian, Coinbase, according to September 16th filing. So they wrote this because, subject to confirmation of foregoing required minimum balance, Coinbase custody shall process a withdrawal of digital assets from the custodial account to a blockchain address within 12 hours. So people have fast access to its Bitcoin. I guess they have gotten spooked, or it's because of PR measures that they want to ensure their customers that you have access to your funds within a very fast or adequate amount of time. So Coinbase got itself in a little bit of a pickle. Now, I more or less trust Coinbase on this stuff. I do believe they actually do have the reserves. And yes, like the big buyers, like they probably don't want their stuff made public. So there is a reason why Coinbase is doing this. But, BlackRock's not really having any of it, and they really want Coinbase to have like really fast withdrawals for their clients' money. So yes, this filing is with the SEC.gov. And remember, Coinbase is the custodian for 10 out of 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs, and other ETF issuers might want them doing the same thing. So this could be kind of a headache for Coinbase. If you see right here, a lot of technical jargon at this point, But, I guess Brian Armstrong saying that, Coinbase does actually have all the funds, but because, a lot of these guys want this to remain private, we can't actually release them. So we're not going to do proof of reserves on like CBBTC or like the ETF stuff. I guess that didn't bode all that well with BlackRock, and they either caved into like public pressure or they basically just wanted surety for their clients. Either way, they're demanding Coinbase take action, make available very, very quick withdrawals for ETFs for their customers. So Coinbase got itself into a little bit of trouble this time, and BlackRock is taking note. So BlackRock is watching when the public is actually saying all this stuff. And even though Deloitte does audit Coinbase annually, I suppose that wasn't quite good enough and not what BlackRock was looking for. There is a China stimulus actually coming. They might actually be ready to pump Bitcoin. Now, let's remember one thing. Even though China has more or less banned Bitcoin buying and trading, they still control about 55% of the hash rate. Now, that's not to say 55% of the miners are actually in China. That means like the hash pools are in China. Some of the biggest hash pools are in China and they have 55%. The US has about 40%. The difference is the US hash pools generally service the bigger hashing companies, and the Chinese hash pools generally service like smaller individual miners. Now, that doesn't mean they control the hashing power. What that really means is that the hash power is gathered there, but the people that actually control the hash power can actually switch at any time. However, it does actually take time to do so. This still makes me a little bit concerned because, the Chinese government can actually try to commandeer those hash pools, although people would probably take their hash rate elsewhere if the Chinese government did that and the hash pools folded, which they would, because if you're in China, you can't really resist the CCP. The thing about this is that there's a lot of people that buy Bitcoin and stuff in China in secret. It's not all out in the limelight because it is actually kind of illegal. But there's a lot of even government officials that buy it in secret. And I don't think that's to really anyone's surprise that actually lives there. There's a lot of under the table stuff. Officials make rules that they can actually break so they can mainly benefit from it while everyone else can't benefit from it. I think most people are very much aware of that point in terms of like the Chinese officials. Them getting the stimulus, maybe them and their powerful buddies can actually buy Bitcoin. We know that there's still a lot of people in China that actually hold Bitcoin. I mean, the RMB does not evoke too much confidence especially in the Chinese economy as of right now. So generally, yeah, this could actually stir some some movement upward in Bitcoin. But right now, it's just basically a reduction of the interest rates and also like a reduction of mortgage interest. They're basically trying to get more people to buy property because they need the real estate prices to stay up or the entire Chinese economy collapses. I don't think most of you realize how much the Chinese economy is dependent on their real estate prices because most people's like the substantial amount or like the vast majority of people's wealth is actually in real estate holdings, either their own house or like a second house or like a portfolio of properties. So if that market collapses, they're kind of screwed. So like, I don't know if the stimulus will directly help crypto. Maybe it'll free up some money, but I don't think they're like mailing checks quite yet. I think they're going to get to that point soon is what I'm guessing because people outside are calling for it and people inside China are calling for it as well. But for right now, they're just lowering rates and making it easier for people to buy houses. But those houses are still really, really expensive. So not really sure how much that's going to help. But hopefully they start printing checks soon over there. And if they start printing checks, people are going to be buying more crypto in any way they can. At least the rich people are. So a hot new coin that might actually come onto the market is actually Polymarket. Now, Polymarket, if you know, is the betting platform for political elections. The CFTC is really, really against that. However, they lost a lawsuit against Polymarket on a judge, and they tried to get like an emergency appeal, and the judge kind of denied them that. So Polymarkets is actually taking bets for the presidential election right now. Obviously, there's a question of election integrity. You don't want candidates like taking millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars to throw an election on purpose. And obviously, like, you know, for like a state Senate seat or maybe even a local seat, you know, if people are betting a lot of money on it, you know, there definitely can be incentive to actually throw the election. And that's really what they don't want. They don't want them to actually throw the election because of betting, because that could really jeopardize the integrity of the voting system. But they're actually eyeing a coin right now. And obviously, like, this is something that the CFTC would actually fight at this point because they try to basically stop them from doing presidential elections altogether, but the CFTC lost. They tried to file an emergency appeal, but Polymarkets was like, no, you can't have it because our business kind of depends on us being able to process election bets. But like the CFTC is eyeing Polymarket and other offshore platforms, and this SEC and German authorities are ramping up crypto crackdowns. But anyways, the CFTC announced during July 17th discussion at Georgetown Sarso Center for the Financial Markets and Policy that it's closely watching Polymarket and other offshore crypto betting platforms. They want to make sure they actually comply with the regulations, and they're observing any activity occurring offshore and providing exposure to U.S. customers to make sure they actually follow U.S. rules, because if you provide any service to any U.S. customers, you are under U.S. jurisdiction. He further stated that enforcement action will ensue if the entity's footprint is significant enough in the U.S. and doesn't register the derivatives contracts it offers. But I think they're going to be specifically harsh on Polymarket because they don't actually like what Polymarket is doing. But Polymarket is becoming very, very successful, especially with this election betting. And they probably don't want to see a coin come up with Polymarket because I think that'll just make it even bigger. And they really want to stop elections betting at the CFTC. Not really sure like what they actually have to gain and lose on it. I can definitely see the argument for corruption of people throwing races, but there's been a big, big lawsuit and big legal fight over this. Don't really think the CFTC is winning on that part right now. Celestia, if you haven't heard, has gone up about 20% or more than 20% in the last 2 days. And it's because they secured a big, big round of funding. So they secured $100 million for blockchain innovation. It's led by Bain Capital and brought its total funding to $155 million. So that gives Celestia a much bigger runway. It gives them the funds to actually do bigger projects. And that's why they are up. Basically, it was launched in 2023. This is Celestia Mainnet Beta introduces modular consensus and data network, enabling developers to build high throughput applications without the limitations of traditional blockchains. This innovation has already resulted in the deployment of 20 rollup chains, with data blobs exceeding half the total published by rollups. Celestia aims to significantly improve data throughput, targeting 1 gigabyte blocks to revolutionize blockchain scalability. So basically, they've gotten 100. They've basically tripled their funding, and that's why they are up. In case you're wondering why it's been so hot lately. And last of all, but not least of all, Telegram has folded. Do do do. Do 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 do. No, Telegram's not dead. Actually, I think Ton is fine. But for those of you that love privacy and don't want governments actually looking around in your transactions and not knowing your IP, well, that's over now. Telegram has folded like a sheet of paper because they caught the CEO, and basically, since he's facing jail and stuff, he's saying that yes, we'll share the information. He's facing a lot of backlash. But you know what? I actually think Telegram will actually survive because despite the fact that there is a lot of illegal activity on Telegram, there's also a lot of legal activity on Telegram as well. In fact, I would guess it's maybe like 80-20, 80% legal, 20% not, 20% not legal. And if they're able to retain like 70-80% of their user base, I think that's fine. I think people aren't going to stop playing Catizen or Hamster Combat just because Telegram could share info with the authorities if a legal request is actually made, a valid legal request. So Telegram to share user data with authorities, including IPs and phone numbers. By the way, I think Durov was already doing this with Moscow. Because I think he made several trips back to Moscow since he actually fled Moscow. And Russia is actually trying to help him at this point. So I think there is definitely some kind of connection there. So Telegram is linked with serious criminal activity, including distribution of child abuse content. I think that's originally what France arrested him on. The Telegram will now share users' IP addresses and phone numbers with authorities if they receive valid legal requests. So if you're trying to use Telegram to hide everything, that is not going to work. This comes after CEO Pavel Durov was arrested in France for allegedly not cooperating with law enforcement agencies. And not cooperate he did, but that is not working for him very well right now. The decision was announced by CEO Pavel Durov after his arrest because they hold him in custody and they can send him to the gulags if he does not comply. Of course, there's going to be backlash, but you know, when you're in the clutches of the authorities and they can basically just like pwn you, you basically do what they say. Especially if they have a valid legal complaint against you, which they do because, like we all know, there is a lot of serious illegal activity on Telegram. I think even Telegram aficionados will admit that. In the past, Telegram has repeatedly refused to provide user information to take down content. This made it a target for law enforcement agencies worldwide. In August, French prosecutors claimed Telegram had become a breeding ground for criminal activity, including the distribution of child sexual abuse content. And there's actually proof of that. And, a child advocacy group actually emailed Telegram multiple times asking them to take the content down. And Telegram basically did not pay attention and told them to actually go kick rocks. So that does not play well with the government. So this advocacy group actually then went to the French government, and the French government arrested Durov. Of course, he has to remain in France for the investigation. And there's a lot of legal troubles that Telegram has actually had right now, including getting kicked out of several jurisdictions. That's probably one of the reasons that Durov actually agreed to actually divulge information to the authorities, because he saw that Telegram was basically going to get kicked out of every single jurisdiction if he didn't. Once again, I actually don't think this will hurt Telegram too much. I know some of you might disagree with me. I don't think they're going to lose a huge amount of their users, because I would guess that most of their users don't really have anything to hide. I mean, there are a couple that probably have a lot of stuff to hide, but I think most of their users don't really have much to hide. So, if you retain like 70, 80, 90% of your users and you have a 900 million user base, I still think that Telegram will actually do just fine. If you look at Toncoin right now, at least at the time of the recording of this video, it hasn't really been affected. Like, it's down 1.1%, but a lot of coins are down more than that right now. So it might have had a slight small impact, but not really that much of an impact. And I think a lot of people just use Telegram as a broadcasting tool. So I don't think it's actually going to lose most of its user base. I think most people are not using it for illicit activity. There are definitely some people using it for illicit activity, as we know on Telegram. But even if 5 or 10% of your people are using it for illicit activity, that's a lot out of 900 million people. Think about it. 5% is 45 million people using it for illicit activity. So that's a lot of illegal stuff on there, even if it's a small percentage. But you can still retain the other 800 million people that are actually using it for just a broadcasting tool or legitimate purposes. And a lot of those, like a lot of the big crypto companies, actually use it as their main means of communication. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.